Welcome to a new video, guys. I'm a training private pilot license student, and today we'll be doing the checks on the aircraft. Let's go. At first, you can just clear off your area, make sure everything's nice and tidy. Next thing we are gonna do is checking all the essential lights on the aircraft. The way we do this is by turning this master switch on, and now we're gonna turn the strobe lights, the landing lights, the navigation lights, and the beacon on. You should also lower the flaps and turn the pitot heat on. And as you lower the flaps, you should visually observe it and make sure it's going down in stages. After this, we'll go outside and visually check, make sure all of the lights are working. First, we'll do the port wing. Here you see the landing and taxi lights. On the edges, you'll see the strobes and navigation. Let's go to the starboard wing. Here you see the navigation and the strobes, and on the back of the fin you'll see the beacon and the white navigation light. And the last thing we turned on was the pitot heat. Make sure it's nice and warm. You want to make sure all the lights are nice and sound, they're working, they're not broken or anything. Now we'll move to visual inspection of the aircraft. On the flaps you want to make sure all these hinges and bolts are in place. Same thing with the ailerons. You want to make sure all them hinges and bolts, everything is nice and sound. You should also make sure they are free of any movement and the differential between each wing. As one goes up, the other should come down. Also, you want to make sure the structure is good overall. Now you want to come to the leading edge of the port wing. You want to check for any dents and make sure there is no structural damage. Next, we'll roughly check how much fuel you got in the wing. Now later on we'll do fuel quantity and quality test as well. But this is just to visually inspect you got enough. While you're up there, just visually check all the screws and everything are in place. Now as we come down, we'll check the pitot heat, make sure it's not blocked. We'll check the static port as well, make sure that's not blocked, because that will give you incorrect readings on the altimeter. Now at the front undercarriage, you want to make sure there is enough hydraulic space, about 3 to 4 inches, the tire inflation, the creep marks, and the overall structure of it. Make sure there's no bolts or anything missing there. Now the front blades, you want to check it all the way around as such. Now normally here you would check the engine oil by taking out the dipstick, but this aircraft had flown earlier, so we couldn't do that. Now you can check the fuel quantity on the starboard side of the wing. While you're up here, you can also check for any dents or damages on top of the wing, because it's hard to see when you're down there. Now one thing I should also mention, guys, is when you are doing the checks around the fuselage, it's best to keep an eye on the overall structure of the aircraft. Anywhere you go, just check for fuselage, left, right, center, everywhere. The checks on the port and starboard wing are same overall, apart from some extra checks on the port wing. Coming to the main undercarriage, I want to make sure that this strut is nice and sound, because this takes the force of the landing. I also check the brake pads, any brake fluid leaking, the main bolt on the wheel, and the inflation of the wheel. I want to make sure it's not worn out too much. Now coming back to the tail section of the aircraft, known as the empennage, you want to check the front leading edge of the horizontal stabilizers. You also want to check the front leading edge on the vertical stabilizers. Now here we check the elevators, all the bolts and everything nice and sound. You also check it on the rudder.
They are good.
Now that's all external checks done. The last thing we got is fuel quality and quantity check. The way we do this is by taking samples from each wing and under the engine. So this is a sample from the port wing. After taking a sample, you roughly want to mix it, and if there is any water contaminants, it would drop down to the bottom. Now the reason this happens is because the water is more denser or more heavier than the fuel, so it just sinks into the bottom. You want to keep draining it until all the water content is out, and you can get rid of the sample fuel in a safe container, which your airfield might have. You should not dump it on the ground. Now if the sample is nice and clear and there is no contaminants, you can simply put it back in the wing. Now to check the quantity of fuel, you get this numbered gauge. You create a airtight seal and you can read off how much fuel you got in that specific wing. Now here you want to make sure that your cap is nice and tight and it's not going to become loose once you take off. The next sample we're going to take is from under the engine. It's got a dedicated point called a fuel strainer right there. Now you pull that and it should release some fuel for you to sample. And you check that the same way as you would check the wing. And if it's nice and clear, you can just put it back in the wing. After this, you would check the quantity of fuel on this side of the wing just the way you would on the other side, and you can add both of them together and that would tell you the quantity of fuel you got on board. If you need refueling, obviously you can refuel. And that's how you do all the external checks on a Cessna 152. That's it for today, guys. If you found this video helpful or informational, give it a thumbs up and I'll see you in the next one.